Hi there, USBGF members. This is Phil Simborg in Charlotte, North Carolina, and I'm sitting here with the unflappable Bob Koca, one of the great players in the world and in this tournament. And he showed me this position where he was playing a match to 9, and he's red, and he's winning 5-0, and he's on roll, and he's trying to decide whether or not he should double or not. And of course, in studying these positions, we should also consider whether or not blue should take or not if Bob were to double. So let's just pause a minute and give you a chance to think about it. And by the way, you can pause this tape and take a little bit longer and decide what you would do and why, because obviously this isn't a real simple no-brainer, or I wouldn't be sitting here with Bob to help me, because I had trouble figuring this out myself by quite a bit. So I'm going to be quiet. You decide if red should double and if blue should take or drop if red were to double. So hopefully you paused the tape. If you need more time, pause it, and then you can come back. And now let's hear what Bob Koca has to say about this position and how he tackled the problem, what he did, and then we can see what Extreme Gammon says.
Okay, so what had just happened here is before this I had been playing on, and blue had just gotten a big, I think maybe even big doubles, which makes my gammons go a little bit down. So I'm kind of re-examining this from scratch almost now. And my first idea is I want to see what is blue's take point. If I double to 2, how quickly he's going to double to 4, and how efficient those cubes are, estimating how often I win a gammon. And first thing to realize here is how many good rolls do I have. And the way to kind of do that quickly is to see that 3s are good, 5s are good, and 6s are good. So if all I get is 3s, 5s, and 6s, those rolls are definitely good, and that's 9 rolls right there. Okay, what else is okay here? Double 2s is okay, so that's a 10th row. And
double 1s.
We already counted double 1s.
Oh.
6s, 3s, and 1s.
Ah, right.
That's always 9 rolls right there.
Okay, that's right, okay.
Okay, so double 2s are good. And is there any other good roll here? Well, a 6 with a 4 is bad. A 6 with a 2 is bad. A 6 with a 1 is bad. 5 with a 4 is bad. 5 with a 2 is bad. 5 with a 1 is bad. 4 with a 3 is bad. 4 with a 2 is bad. 4 with a 1 is bad. 2-1 is the only other okay roll. It repeats the jeopardy, but it doesn't leave an immediate shot. So that means 12 rolls don't leave a shot. And the other 24 rolls leave a shot. Sometimes a double shot, like a 6-1 is going to be a double shot. 6-2, 5-2, or 4-2, though I hit him, it takes away his shots a little bit. Okay. So roughly about 2/3 of my rolls are going to leave a shot. Now, let's say that I get a 6-1. Can you, play that, Phil?
How would you play it?
I'm going to take the 6 off for sure. And here, I could take another checker off, and that gives him 2 directs is always 20 shots. That gives him 3-1 and 1-1, which is 3 more shots. And if I get hit, I'm in bad shape anyway, so the extra checker off doesn't help me that much. So I play it to 6-5. Okay, now if I had doubled to 2, well, let's think now. Is he going to have a recube to 4? He might be thinking that he's going to lose a fair amount of gammons anyway. So even though he's only 50% ahead, maybe he's going to recube this to 4. And it turns out that it actually is correct to recube, but just by a tiny, tiny bit. So why don't we just look at the double ply for this? Okay.
Not so tiny, fairly solid recube.
Okay, but look at his equity he gets though.
Okay.
0.07. It's not an efficient cube. It's nowhere near my drop point. Okay, so it's not efficient at all.
Okay.
Okay, so let's go back to the original position. Okay, so that makes it a little bit easier to kind of analyze here. And what some people do on this position is they say, well, I'm going to lose a lot of gammons, but if I take this 2 cube, I can just cube away his gammons anyway with my cube to 4, is what people think. But let's see what's going to be the ramifications of that here. 24 of my rolls, he's going to cube me to 4. Basically a shot is going to be borderline cubes. So let's assume that he cubes those.
And you have to take those cubes.
And I'm going to take those cubes.
Yes.
All right. So a lot of these games are going to end on 4 because if I leave the shot, it's going to be cubed to 4. If I don't leave the shot, there's a decent chance I'm going to win a gammon. I might win a few games just winning 2 instead. But let's imagine for a moment that all those games ended on 4, that I was actually going to win all my gammons, and he was going to always recube before he won. So then it's basically he has 2 choices. Well, actually, he's better than that, but let's see how far away that is from being a take. All right, so he has 2 choices then, assuming that the game would end on 4, is that he could go down and drop and be down 3 away, 9 away. And that gives him about 16% chances in the match. And let's say that he takes this strategy, which is suboptimal, I know, but let's say that he takes this and he's just going to automatically recube to 4. Or if he doesn't get a shot, assume that I win the gammon, which is better for longer ones or gammons. Okay, what would the take point be in that situation? Okay, well, if the game is for 4, I'm either going to win, or, so he'd have 0%, or he's going to win and be down 5 away, 4 away, which is 42%. Okay, so he can either just take his 16% chance, or he can play this out and hope to get a chance of getting 42%.
Okay.
All right, so what
And by the way, you're doing all this before you decide whether to double or not, with the clock running.
Yes.
Okay, go
this
ahead.
is one of the times where I want to use the clock.
Okay, all right.
Now,
That's why you're famous for the clock going down to 3 seconds and finishing the match.
Perhaps.
Okay.
If I had more time to study, I would have had this memorized.
Okay.
Actually, for any score that's 5 away, or less, I just kind of know this already. All right, but this is a little bit longer match, so I don't have it memorized.
Okay.
All right, so it works out that 16 over 42 is the same as 8 over 21. It turns out that he needs to be about 37% chances to win the game if he was going to use that strategy of just assuming that all the games are going to end at 4. Okay, now let's think about how often he actually wins this game. Okay. All right, so about 2/3 of the time, I'm going to leave a shot. He's going to hit that about half the time, and 2/3 of a half is a third. He doesn't always win those because I'd have probably 3 checkers off, which would be 90% for him if he had a closed board, which he doesn't yet. He might win a little bit of the games later on because he doesn't have to hit right away. So I estimated that those 2 things balanced out, and he was going to be about 33% to win the game.
Okay.
It turns out that actually he's closer to 30, about 30 or 31. And that's really pretty far away from that 37% that he needed. Okay, and I figured that when I win enough gammons, that I figured that this was going to be a pass for him.
Okay.
Kind of close. Okay, so if it's a pass, maybe I'm too good. Okay, so the next thing I had to figure out is, well, how often do I win a gammon here? Well, if I get hit, I don't win the gammon, obviously. Okay, and just for the racing, there's a concept called the gammon count. And it's like the pip count for a race, but it's how many pips you need to run off the gammon. So the checker on the 21 point, it's got to get at least to the 6. Okay, so that's 6, 12, that's 15 for that. And these 2 each have 34. So he has 49 just to get these 3 checkers to this. He has to get at least 2 right here.
Okay.
So that's his gammon count, which is 51.
You divide that by 8?
Well, I'm going to compare it to how many turns I need.
Okay.
Okay. You might have wastage with that also,
Okay,
right?
go ahead.
And wastage is not as much for risk. It's only 3 checkers, and he has a good chance to get directly to the 6. So I figure that's going to be probably about 56. Okay, now I have 31 pips, but I have a lot of wastage here. Okay, so I said I have, well, at least 7 turns, and that's already going to be 7n plus 1, would already be 50 pips already. So I thought the gammon race, I'm a slight edge to win if there's a for the race for the gammon. But if I get hit, I don't win the gammon. Okay, so based on that, the races I figured I probably about 60 or 70%, but I might get hit 1/3 of the time. So I thought my gammon chance was maybe about 40% or so.
Okay.
That played out.
All right.
Okay, so The other thing that's interesting here is I have a lead in this match already. And it's paradoxical. That actually makes me kind of want to be more ready to cube here if it's going to be a pass for him. Because I'm more willing just to get kind of a single point and kind of edge towards the 9 that I need.
But there's a part of me that says most people that I play are going to grab this cube because, number one, they're not... I know, you're right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying that there is that factor that I'm thinking of, that I think even if I came to the conclusion this is a pass, I think a heck of a lot of people, including yours truly, are going to take this cube against the great Bob Koca because it's a shot.
I'm even more glad they took it then.
Because they're giving away 7% equity.
Too much equity.
They're giving away too much equity when they do that.
Yeah.
So then you concluded it's a double for that reason.
Cash.
Yeah.
You concluded it's a double for that reason.
Yes.
That's wonderful. Okay.
What's really interesting is
it's a job. Okay.
I asked a lot of players, and we asked them too. Almost every single person was saying it was a take. And almost every single person was thinking, I don't think you should double.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Let's look what the double plus says.
And by the way, I was one of those every single people.
All right, so it's a double blunder if I don't cube this.
Huge.
And it's a double blunder to take it.
Huge.
So it's huge, and everyone's getting this wrong. All right, so it's just kind of like the score. I think the main thing here is that the idea that I can cube to 4 and just kill your gammons, people overdo that idea because it means they got to cube to 4. And in this case, often when they don't want to.
Okay.
It's not really a powerful cube.
Okay. Well, there's one reason I can think of. There's 2 reasons why we're all getting this wrong. Number one is it is complex. This, what you just explained, takes a lot of knowledge and skill and understanding of match equity and making all these estimates on how often you get
and
gammon.
Not being scared to use the time on the clock.
Right.
When you really should
right.
use
Even
it.
if there's not a clock, it's complicated. So, even when it's this complicated, without a clock, most of us are not going to go into that depth of time to do this. There's only a few players I know that would really dive into this over the board to that detail to count gammons.
Here's what the concepts I use. I use the idea that gammon counts. And I just compared it with like my racing knowledge. And I use the idea of match equity. And I use the idea of counting shots and how things going to hit. That was really, if you break it down, any one of those 3 things isn't by itself that complicated. You just got to kind of put it together.
Okay, and here's the real point for the listeners. This is not something that anybody can't do. This is something that anybody can do what Bob just did. All it required was study before you get to the board. You need to know what the match equities are. You need to know this method of estimating gammons. You need to know or estimate the take points. And all of these things can happen much more quickly if you do it a lot in practice. Now, you won't often get to positions this complex. Most of the time, as Bob said, at 5 away and down, almost all of us who are open-level players can do most of these computations very quickly. We know the take points instantly, we know the gammon values instantly, but how many of us know how to estimate the number of gammons in a position like this? This is just more proof that you have to study the game better to play better, and it's no accident that the better players win.
Yeah. There's some level of calculations here, and you just got to try it out, see what you're capable of. I play on the site Daily Gammon, where you make a move, and then you wait for your opponent to make a move, like the next day or a couple of days. There's been several times that I looked at a position and took over 30 minutes on it, doing calculations in my head just to see, okay, what if this thing is kind of practice with that? I won't do that over the board, probably not.
It's good that you do that because your opponent's probably taking 10 seconds to put it in extreme gammon and get the answer, but you want to do it fairly and learn something, or else why bother? Bob, this is a real eye-opener, a real education. I'm not embarrassed to say that I got this wrong because I know who many of the other people you asked are, and they're really terrific players. These are tough. I hope this gives you, the listener, some idea of the complexity of the game and that you really have to study if you want to get to Bob's level of play. Thanks, Bob, and we'll be seeing you again on other positions. Bye-bye, everybody.